But our next guest is a former NFL player whose great-great-grandfather was brought to America on a slave ship, and he still stands for the national anthem. With me now, former NFL Super Bowl champion and author of Liberalism, or How to Turn Good Men into Whiners, Weenies, and Wimps, Burgess Owens. Mr. Owens, thank you for being here today.
Hi, Liz. Looking forward to chatting with you for sure.
This is so interesting, your perspective. You wrote a great article about this. First of all, when you see these pictures, when you see these videos of these young athletes kneeling for the national anthem, what is your reaction to this?
My reaction is very simply is that it's a shame where our educational system has gotten us now. I'm proud of our country because I was taught when I was growing up about our great history, about our great lineage. These young men who are standing on the sideline who are making millions of dollars per year by going on the field have no clue about what got them there. And if they really want to make a difference, the American way is coming up with solutions. It's not kneeling and disrespecting our flag. It's standing and saluting our flag, doing it all season, combining their resources, billions of dollars, and go out there and really make a difference in those communities they're talking about. And for the white players that are now putting their hands on the shoulders or standing with them, may I make a suggestion? Stop apologizing for who you are. Stop apologizing for the great country that's giving you the opportunity to do what you're doing. And me, the same here. We just finished up 8 years of a presidency, a black president. And 100 years ago, my great-great-grandfather came here in the belly of a slave ship. The end of his story, though, he ended up with a very successful entrepreneur, owned 100 acres of property, paid off in 2 years, the pillar of his community, proud American and proud Republican. That's the story of our nation. And we need to get back to understanding who we are and stop apologizing for being white and stop apologizing or expecting apologizing because we're black. We're Americans. And in this country, you can do anything you want to if you really put your heart and soul into it.
Mr. Owens, I have the chills up and down my arm. That was absolutely beautiful. Let me ask you, in the practical sense here, I understand the argument that's coming from the left to a certain extent, where they say, you know, free speech, these players are allowed, it's part of the American way even, for them to express their views here. We shouldn't stifle them just because we consider it to be disrespectful. That is, after all, why we have the right to free speech, to protect us when other people don't like it. But what should coaches do, in your opinion? I mean, you've played in the NFL. You understand how this system works. How should coaches handle this?
Well, it's the league. Unfortunately, we have in the top of our organization, we have liberals, we have leftists who don't understand that their brand is based on what the American dream is all about. They are living the greatest lifestyle. And what I suggest the league to do is make the same parameters in terms of making a bad impression on their brand by finding guys who do not do what's supposed to be positive for their brand. Now, for these young men, it's going to be up to people like myself, black conservatives, get in that community and help these people, these young guys, understand what they have their hands on and take advantage of it and being a great example of moving forward, as opposed to being divided with the socialist, liberal, and Marxist organizations that's actually driving this process right now.
Right.
We're fighting ideology, not each other.
Right. And I mean, that seems to make sense to me because it doesn't seem like it would be stifling free speech when the league actually penalizes players for what you could call expressions of free speech. You know, they call it decorum in the end zone, you know, all those dances, which I think we enjoy watching, but they actually get fined for them. They can get benched for it. I don't know if this is any different or not, but maybe the league should step up. Mr. Owens, let me ask you a question. You said that you stand. One of the things that you think about when you stand up for our national anthem at these games, you say that you stand for black youth who have not been taught to love God, family, and country, and you blame liberals for that. What do you mean?
The last 60 years, I grew up in a community that was very exciting, very successful. We led the country in terms of growth of our black middle class, led the country in terms of commitment of men to marriage, led the country in terms of black entrepreneurs. The liberal left, the socialists and liberals have run our communities for the last 60 years. They have been taught, they've taught their young men not to have gratitude about who we are, not to educate them about our country and what we stand for. So where we are today, understand that's the Democrats. The Democrats have owned that community for 60 years. So the misery you see there is done on purpose, is done for decades because they want that vote. So we're going to get that back. We're going to go in there and start giving the message of hope and work ethic and pride in our country, and we will get our young people back understanding that they should stand strongly and proudly for the only country in the history of mankind to give us the kind of rights we have today.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. You also say that liberals are the ones that are teaching youth that we shouldn't get over this divisive past that we do have in our country. And this is, I think, particularly relevant to you. You share the story of your great-great-grandfather as an 8-year-old child being forced onto a slave ship, brought to this country. He was a slave in this nation, died a free man. You know, his children all graduated from college. An absolutely remarkable story here. But what do you say to, I guess, black youth or these athletes that are playing in the NFL right now? What do you say to them to counter that narrative of the left that's telling them that we should not get over the divisive past in our nation, that we need to continue this divide?
What I say to the white and black Americans, we need to learn our history. Karl Marx, the founder of socialists, said that the first battleground is the rewriting of history. Black and white Americans need to learn our history. And I tell you, the leftists had a long game. They've been doing this for decades. We need, for those of us conservatives, get into the fight, and roll up our sleeves, fight for those young people who are not given the right message. If we educate our kids, they will stand strong because they'll be proud of their history, proud of their ancestors, and proud of this country that's done so many good things for so many people. The left is an ideology of division. We need to know that that's what we're fighting against. Ideology of socialism, Marxism, and liberalism. That's our enemy, not each other.
Mr. Owens, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate the work you're doing on behalf not just of conservative principles, but on behalf of our history and our nation. I'm proud to talk to you. Thanks for being here.